Good evening. Grab yourself a yummy drink and some materials. We're gonna get started soon. The materials list is in the post section, so if you are planning on sewing with me, make sure you have those cut out and ready to go. See you in 10. Good evening, everyone. Tricia here with Tricia's Hobbies. Tonight you have joined my second live with Sew with the Flow. This is a sewing space where we embrace the learning curve. Today we are doing a very easy, beginner-friendly sewing project. We're doing this lined drawstring gift bag. So first things first, I would love to go over the material list, but I want to see where you guys are from. So I'm sorry I have to look over to the side to see comments, but I want to periodically look and see if you say anything. But I'd love to hear where you're from, what you're doing, what you'd like to learn how to sew. All of that would be fabulous. But we are going to go right into the materials list. And we're gonna we're gonna sew this adorable little gift bag. So glad you could join me. All right, so let's go into our materials list, and hopefully you had the opportunity to either check out the posts section here on YouTube. I did share the material list prior to the live. I also have this displayed in my private Facebook group if you're interested in joining that. We put this material list up at least a little bit before the YouTube going live, so you have the opportunity to cut everything out. This is a great project because it allows you to use a small amount of fabric, and it's a great addition to any gift that you're giving. So the first fabric that we're going to cut out is 2 10 by 12s. We're going to do a second fabric, again 2 10 by 12s, and then 1/2 inch ribbon 26 inches long, and two of those as well. So I always want to just mention, please bring your sewing machine, thread, scissors, marking utensil, iron, just some of the basics. But most importantly, as I have it really nice and big right there, bring a smile. Let's have some fun, okay? All right, so let's go on to here. Bear with me, I am learning how to navigate this system and figure out the cameras and everything, so I'm hoping we're good. I'm going to switch the camera here. You can see my whole setup, but I'm going to switch it to here so you can hopefully see a little bit closer, and I'll try to hold up my hands and show you things if it's something that's a little bit, needs to be closer to the camera. But thank you for taking your evening and joining me. I hope you learned something and you will be able to watch this back and sew this for yourself, okay? All right, well, let's get started. Let's look at the fabric here. I'm gonna set this one aside. So as I said, you need 2 10 by 12s for your outer fabric and 2 10 by 12s for your lining fabric. Let's go ahead and start with the lining fabric since that's down at the bottom. What we're going to do is sew. This is going to be pretty side to pretty side, but since this is a non-directional fabric, or excuse me, you can do either side, we're just going to do it just as is. So we're going to sew on the left side, the bottom, and the right side, but we're going to leave 4 inches open at the bottom because this is where we're going to turn our bag right side out after a bit, okay? So if you have a hard time remembering to leave a little section open, I recommend just taking a utensil and marking the opening. Like I said, about 4 inches. It can be a little bigger, it can be a little smaller, but I'm just going to put an X there. We're going to go to the sewing machine. We're going to back stitch at the top, come around here, and then come over here, back stitch. Then we're going to start here, back stitch, sew all the way to here, and back stitch, okay? We're going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance. If you're relatively new to sewing, a seam allowance is going to be your stitch line here. So the stitch line is from there to the edge of the fabric. That's considered your seam allowance. So it is going to be 1/4 inch from the edge. So if you look at my little gauge, it's going to be that far from the edge. Now there's different ways to achieve a 1/4 inch seam allowance. You can use a guide on your foot. There's also a 1/4 inch foot with guide. There's a 1/4 inch foot without guide. I've also got, let me actually switch my camera so you can see it. I've also got this tape here that has markings on it that has a 1/4 inch. So I have a little marking on my foot that I can follow or use this tape that I have. I'm gonna go ahead and actually use the tape. I made this project not too long ago and I ended up doing a 1/4 inch, like I moved my needle over and then I used the edge of the foot and that helped me achieve a 1/4 inch as well. So again, there are different ways that you can use this in order to achieve that 1/4 inch. So let's go ahead and start at the top and I'm gonna do a let's do a 2.4 stitch length. And when I say a stitch length, it's exactly that. It's how long your stitches are. So if you're doing like piecing or something like that for a quilt, you're gonna want short stitches so those blocks don't fall apart. And then if you're needing a basting stitch where it's just kind of temporarily holding your fabric in place, you just do a really long one. So you could do like a 4.5 and then you won't have to pick as much. So here, this fabric stays together nicely, so I don't even have to pin it. I've laid it on top of each other and it holds up really nicely. But you're welcome to use either pins or clips if that's something that's convenient for you. I like clips a lot. It just depends on the circumstance. So we were having this discussion on one of my other lives where people were like, do you like pins? Do you like clips? Honestly, it depends on the project, but you'll find which one you like. So again, I'm going to use the tape here on my machine because you don't want to look at the needle as you're sewing. Otherwise, your fabric is going to go all wonky. You want to pick a spot to look at the head of it. So I could either pick like right here on the edge of my foot, but I'm actually looking at the guideline on the tape that I have on my machine. So I'm going to stop a 1/4 inch from the edge of the fabric because I'm going to leave my needle in. And then I'm going to lift up my foot, pivot my fabric, and then lower my foot. And I can already see because of the tape on my machine that I'm not quite at a 1/4 inch. So I'm gonna actually put that back and do one more stitch, but I'm gonna do it by hand so I don't go too far. And I think that will help me achieve the 1/4 inch when I turn. Yeah, that's close enough for me. And this is a very forgiving project, so if you're just a little bit off, that's totally fine. It is a slouchy little gift bag, so it is very forgiving. Again, we want to leave that opening at the bottom, so we're going to stop where we marked with our pen. We're going to back stitch, and then we're going to cut our thread. We're going to lift our presser foot, scooch our fabric up here a little bit. Oh, my machine didn't cut my thread. That's weird. There we go. Make sure it's on the bottom. You know, anytime I pull it out like that, I'm just going to grab my little scrap piece of fabric and just run a stitch through here. See if it cuts that time. There we go. This is just a fluke. I was going to say, usually it doesn't do that. But we're going to bring it up here. Again, look at my 1/4 inch marking. And we're going to start right here. We're going to do a start stitching and then back stitch. And once again, we're going to sew to the edge of the fabric, but we're going to stop a 1/4 inch away. I think I can do one more. Sometimes I'll even lower my stitch length so I can get it, because you might have a little bit longer stitch and you're like, oh, if I do that one more stitch that's like a 3mm stitch length, it's going to be too far and then it's going to be less than a 1/4 inch. So I'll lower my stitch length to like 1.8 at that point and do one little baby stitch and then pivot. But again, super forgiving, so you don't have to do that. So now we're going to go all the way to the top, and then once again at the top we're going to back stitch. Perfect. There we go. So we've got the lining fabric all taken care of. Let me switch back to this one so I can show you. Normally you would do pretty side to pretty side, but because this one doesn't matter, we didn't really have to pay attention to that. But with the outer fabric, as you can see, you've got your print on one side and then it's the white on the other. So we're going to leave this one pretty side up. This one we're going to place on top. Match everything up as best you can. Now, if you weren't feeling confident not using pins or clips, you can take your clips and put those around. Again, with this project, because the fabric doesn't shift too much, you don't need very many. You could just do a few. Do a couple on the long side and one on the bottom. That'll work just fine. Okay. Now with the lining fabric, we left that opening. We don't need two openings. So this time around, we're going to start on the top of the left-hand side. We're going to back stitch and we're going to stitch all the way down. We're going to stop about a 1/4 inch from the edge again, and we're going to lift our presser foot and pivot. We're going to sew all the way, do the same thing, pivot again, and we're going to back stitch up here. So we're not leaving an opening on the outer fabric. We're just going to sew left, bottom, right. And I'm doing right, bottom, left. So let's line her up. I hope that you can hear me okay. This is only my second time doing one of these episodes, and I got a new mic, so I'm hoping that you can hear me. The first go around, we had a little bit of technical issues. Let me switch to the other machine. There we go. We had some technical issues, so I have a little PTSD about whether or not you can hear me, so I hope you can. I'm going to turn that one on so I can talk to you. All right. One thing that I would like to do is get a close-up camera, and I am working on that for next time. Let's see, I think I need that baby stitch. So let's lower that stitch length down to 1.8, do one more stitch, and then we'll bump her back up to 2.4. Okay. And I did start my iron because we will be doing some pressing, so I'm just gonna peek and see if it's hot. Yeah, we're good. We're good. This particular project is great if you have some fabric laying around. It doesn't take a lot. It's great if you have some fat quarters. That's actually what I'm using. If you're not familiar with what a fat quarter is, it's just a pre-cut piece of fabric that is 18 by 22 inches. So they're great for small projects. And I actually have a whole pack of them. So I'm probably going to be making quite a few of these little gift bags to put in my drawer. I don't know if anybody else does this, but you have like all your Christmas bags and your tissue paper and all of that. I'm going to make some of these and have them ready. So next time I'm gift giving, I can use one of these little drawstring gift bags. I like the fact that it's lined. It just adds a nice special touch. I'm going to do a video on doing just a little drawstring bag that's not lined. They come together super quick. So if you're needing, it's great for like little snacks or treats if you wanted to leave a little gift for somebody. I think they're adorable. That'll be another video coming up soon. Okay, we're getting to the end and we're going to back stitch. And now we are going to do the fancy thing called boxing the corners. But I'm going to take a quick drink here first. So with boxing the corners, we're going to do it on the lining fabric and the outer fabric. And actually, before we do that, let's do some pressing. Let's open up these seams. We're going to lay them flat. If you can get a tailor's ham, it sounds kind of funny, but it's just like a circular or oblong, I should say, not circular. It's an oblong, I guess like wool mat almost, but it allows you to stick it in the fabric here like this, and it helps with doing curved edges. So it makes it a little bit easier, but I'm only providing a list of things that you really need. So this is great if you don't have a lot of sewing tools. It's just the basics. So we're just going to press it open with our fingers and then use the iron. I have done this where I literally just finger pressed it as well, but I like it better when I'm able to iron the seam open. So we're gonna do that. Actually, let's go ahead. We'll do a little swapperoonie. Let's go like a that. It's a little tedious, but I like it better. I'm getting hungry. My husband just made lasagna and it's smelling good. I think it's got probably like 45 minutes or an hour. Okay, we're gonna also open up the bottom. I'm kind of putting creases on the side, but that's okay because we'll iron it back out, but it's more important to get the seam open. If I could actually spread that, there we go. Come on. Ah! Let's go. Okay. Actually, that works pretty slick. Depends on the fabric you're using, but this stuff actually works pretty nicely with finger pressing it. It's just kind of an awkward angle. I apologize. I hope you can kind of see what I'm doing. I'm only going about 2 inches because we're gonna box the corners and we have to just come 2 inches down. So as long as the seam is flat at that point, we're okay. So we're gonna do the other side as well. This comes together pretty quickly once you're familiar with this pattern. I guess it's not really a pattern, it's more just instructions. But once you're familiar with it, you can knock one of these out in very short order if you're not trying to talk. Do what I'm doing. Except I can't get this spread open. There we go. It's a-coming, it's a-coming. Okay. We'll just kind of I need my cord coming from the other direction. Otherwise I'm going to accidentally melt it. These are the things that you learn when you're setting everything up. And you're like, I think it's going to work. It's like, nope, you need the cord from the right. This really isn't this difficult. I don't know why I'm having troubles opening these seams. It's really not hard. We're just gonna press those open. I hope you are all doing well tonight. Having a good evening. I had this scheduled for tomorrow and then my husband was like, honey, we're gonna be gone. It's like, oh yeah. So I had to reschedule it for tonight. And there we go. That's looking better. Let's go ahead and flatten that out a little bit. Okay. There. I'll do the lining fabric here in just a moment, but I want to show you what boxing the corners looks like. So in this case, I would recommend having a pin. Now you can get pretty particular about this, or you can like just do it to the best of your ability. So what we're doing is we're taking our little fabric here and the seams, one side of is over here, one's over here. We're gonna lay this flat. We're gonna pinch these corners, kind of make a triangle. And notice how the seam on this side essentially lines up with the seam on this side. So you can kind of eyeball it and have those lined up, or a little trick, you can take your pin and put it in on one side right in the middle and then poke through the other. Oh my goodness, that was totally by accident, but it came right out on the seam. So now you know they're lined up perfectly. And then you can just put the pin over here, kind of hold it in place, and then lay it flat. From here, we're going to take a little measuring tool, and from the point, we're going to measure 2 inches down. This is another very inexpensive, handy dandy tool. It's a little gauge. So you're just going to mark it or put it at 2 inches and measure from that point. And I'm going to take my pen and mark that 2 inches. And the nice thing about this is it also has a straight edge, so I can just scooch this to the side, and now I can kind of eyeball that, make sure it's nice and straight, and then draw a line across. So this is what you should have. Now we're going to go to the sewing machine and we're going to sew this line, and we're going to back stitch at the beginning and at the end. Okay. I don't know about you, but I think next time I'm going to switch the camera from this side so you can see it a little bit better. What do you think? I mean, I know you understand that I'm sewing the line, but I don't know. I guess I'd probably like to see it a little bit closer. So I'm going to have to play around with some camera angles. We're going to back stitch on this side. Okay, and that's what we have. And now we're going to trim that at about 1/4 of an inch. So we sewed right here. We're going to trim this 1/4 inch from the seam. Mine may be a little bit bigger, but that's okay. That's okay. We're going to do the same thing with the other side. So again, you look at the seam, you kind of pinch it, bring it together. We're taking that seam and lining it up with this seam. And we're going to grab ourselves a little pin and poke it through, see where it comes out. This time I wasn't as close, so you can kind of lift up the fabric and scooch it over until that pin comes out the center. And that's what you're looking for. And now that that's in the center, we'll just pull that pin through so we can now lay it flat. Make sure everything looks good. And these pins are fine to press on. I don't like to just flop that on there, but I can go like this and it's not going to hurt anything. You're going to want to make sure that the pin that you're using allows you to do that. Some of them will melt. So again, we're doing 2 inches. So from the point down, we're going to mark 2 inches, and then we'll scooch that and use the straight edge. And then we're going to do the same thing on our lining fabric. So I'm just going to leave that there, and we'll scooch this on over. I'm going to move my pin so I don't sew over it. Make sure my fabric underneath is not under this fabric. And we're going to back stitch at the beginning. We'll do a couple stitches, back stitch, and then sew across. I'm going to make sure that my seam is still open underneath. There we go. It just makes it all come together nicely when you put the lining fabric and the outer fabric together, if there's no bulk under there. So we did it on that side as well. So again, we just take out our pin, take our scissors and trim off that. Like that. So with the outer fabric, we can actually turn it right side out. And now you have a boxed corner. That one, let's see if this one looks prettier. This one's a little bit prettier. Sometimes you'll get them like right, you can see the seam just go boop, all the way down. Mine scooched a little bit, but that's okay. Just like that. So that's going to be your outer fabric, and now we're going to work on the lining fabric. Okay. So let's see if we're more successful with pressing open these, or pressing open the seams on the lining fabric. Maybe if I start with the bottom, it would be easier. The tailor ham actually is really convenient because it allows you to just put that in there and gives you something to press on here instead of trying to push it open like this. But I did it both ways. I did it where I didn't press it. So it depends on, are you a perfectionist or not? And it completely depends on my day. I don't know about you, but sometimes it's like, yes, I want everything perfect. And then other days I'm like, nah, don't really care. It's going to be cute regardless. I should say irregardless and see what somebody says. Will somebody catch me? Okay, well this one's a little bit easier than the outer fabric. There we go. I honestly don't think I have to press it, but we're gonna because I told you to. I really don't want to iron this cord. That is a bad angle. Okay, so that's good. We'll do this side. Open those up. What is everybody up to this evening? I am really loving the smell of that lasagna. So tomorrow we're going to a cave, which I'm pretty pumped about. There's a concert, so it's gonna sound pretty awesome in the cave. I think it'll be a pretty neat experience. Okay. Hey Lizzie, hey Harper, are you both watching? Who's gonna make the gift bag? I got sleepy all of a sudden. I was like, little tired. I ended up being on TikTok for a while. I wasn't planning on it, but I ended up. Okay, so now we're gonna do the same thing. We open those up. Hello, hello. Welcome to Yellow Designs. We're boxing the corner on the lining fabric now. So if for those of you that are just joining, what we're doing is we're gonna, I'm just gonna open that up a little bit more. We're taking the lining pouch here, putting the seam in the middle, and then we're kind of pinching this, and it naturally wants to line up the seam here on the side with the seam on the bottom. But to make sure that we're lining it up properly, you can use a pin and stick it in the middle of the seam, and then stick it out the end. Ha, we're lucky again. It came out right in the center. So we can just bring that pin through and then scooch that fabric out of the way and lay that down. And this time, I already pressed it a little bit, but it's gonna make it a little bit easier since I already put a press in there. So I'm just gonna do a little bit. Grab my little marking tool. And from the top point, we're gonna measure 2 inches down. And scooch our guide and use the straight edge to make a line. You can also use a ruler, like a quilter's ruler, to do these as well. There's different ways to get it, but this works great. And now we're going to back stitch, sew, and back stitch at the end. Okay, so needle down, let's do a couple stitches. And then I'm going to lift up my fabric and just make sure my seam is still laying flat. And once we get to the end, we're going to back stitch. We were talking earlier on TikTok Live regarding like different machines to recommend for a beginner sewer. If you think that you're going to be sewing quite a bit and you're going to grow with your machine, there are a couple of features that I would highly recommend looking at right away. One is going to be your thread cutter that I just did, where you just hit the button and it cuts your thread instead of having to pull it out and cut it here on the side. That's one that I absolutely love. The other is the needle up down button. So if you noticed before, I'll grab my little scrap here. If I put this under and just hit the needle up down button, it does it for me, so I don't have to use the hand wheel. I love that because if you're going to be threading your needle with the needle threader, by putting your needle down and then put it back up, it's in the perfect position to use your needle threader. So those are a couple that I really like, as well as the speed control. So those are just a few things. I know we were chit-chatting about it before, and I was thinking about it after. I'm like, what are a few things that I love that I was bummed I didn't have with my more beginner machine? So those are a couple. So again, we're just putting that seam right in the center. We're going to pinch the sides. I'm going to double check if those seams line up by taking our little pin, putting it in. And this time it didn't come out right in the center, so I'm just going to lift up that fabric on the back and scooch it to the side until that needle comes right through at the center. And then we can bring the needle through. I always say needle for pins. They're pins. The needle's on the machine. Okay, now we can pinch it, pinch, pinch. Lay that fabric flat. Grab our little guide. We're at 2 inches from the point. We're gonna mark 2 inches. I'm gonna scooch my pin out of the way a little bit. Move that guide and put a straight line across. And just so you're aware, this particular pen is a heat, it's a heat friction pen, so I could take my iron and place it on top and that marking would go away. Hey, Miss Crafty Creations. I hope you guys are doing well tonight. What I was saying here is I just used this pen to mark this. If I use my iron and press on that, this marking would go away. It's a heat pen, so I like it a lot. I used to use the chalk, and I found that I really like using this instead. Now, if you're using specialty fabric or anything like that, you're going to want to test it first and make sure it does disappear when you put the heat on it. Maybe it reacts different to different fabric, but I've had good luck with it. I'm gonna start here, back stitch at the beginning, and then we're going to go all the way across and back stitch at the end. Okay, so we already trimmed that one off at 1/4 inch. Now we're going to take this one here and trim it off at about 1/4 inch. If it's a little bit more, that's fine or as well. But looking good so far. And we've already turned our pretty fabric or our outer fabric to the pretty side out, and we are going to leave our lining fabric as is. So this is technically inside out, right? What we're going to do now is take our pretty fabric here. I'm going to switch this over so you can see it a little bit better. So this is still inside out. As you can see, the seam is on the outside. This one we already turned right side out, so the outer fabric is facing pretty side out. Again, our lining fabric has that hole on the bottom. We're not closing that up yet because that's what we're going to use to turn this right side out. But we're going to take our lining fabric. I'm going to move my scissors just a smidge, get those out of the way. We're going to take our lining fabric and kind of lay it like this with the opening. Take our outer fabric and see how the seam is on the left side and the right side. Same with this one. We've got the seam on the left side and the right side. So it just makes it easier to line it up if you kind of lay it that way first and then kind of work that outer fabric in. And the first thing that we want to do is line up the seams. So I'm going to kind of shake this a little bit. These boxed corners, I've kind of got my fingers like this. I'm spreading them out, kind of working that down, and we're going to match up those seams here momentarily. But this just makes it easier if you've got the bag in there nicely. Okay. I hope that looks good. This is a situation where I do find the clips come in handy. So I'm going to line up the seams. You can see they were pressed open so they come together nicely. We're just going to do seams together. And then I'm going to clip right there on the seam. Then I'm going to go to the other side and match up my seams on this side before I match up the rest of the fabric. So we're just making sure everything looks good. And we'll clip there as well. Now that you've got the seams clipped, you can kind of work it like this, and it kind of naturally goes where the top of the raw fabric or the raw edge kind of already matches up nicely, but you can see looks pretty good. We're just going to add a couple of clips on each side. You can kind of push it down with your thumb. Make sure it's all lined up nicely. We're going to do it on this side. Add a couple of clips. Okay. So now we have it all clipped, and what we're going to do is sew all the way around. We don't have to leave any opening because we have that opening here at the bottom, so we're able to turn this right side out. So we're going to sew this on our machine. Now, one thing I do want to point out, I'm going to switch my camera so you can see here. On this one here, I want to just talk about my acrylic table. So my acrylic table ends up turning my machine into a flat bed. If you notice right here, it's got a skinnier part. There's normally this little case right at the front if I didn't have this acrylic table on. You might know them as like the little container where it'll hold presser feet or your needles or something like that, right? But I've chosen to put mine in a cabinet and turn it into a flat bed. So the way that I have to sew this is probably a little bit different than the way that you might have to sew it. Because if you have your free arm like this, all you would have to do is take this opening and slide it around that skinny part, and you're able to just sew all the way around, which is nice. I love the free arm, but I also love having this flatbed for quilting. So what I like to do in this case is I'll just bring my bag up like this, scooch it under my presser foot, and I'm doing a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm going to scooch it under my presser foot, lower my presser foot, put my needle in, and then I'm going to kind of maneuver my fabric a little bit, okay? So you obviously have some bulk over here. You don't have to worry about that. What you're looking at is having this area under your presser foot flat, as well as a couple of inches ahead of your presser foot. So I've flattened all of that out. Everything looks good. And now I'm going to start sewing. I'll go ahead and do my back stitch at the beginning. I'm gonna sew about, let's say, 2 inches or so until I get up to my clip, right? I'm gonna stop, and then I'm going to readjust my fabric. Make sure it's flat right in front, and then I'm gonna continue sewing. I'm just gonna do a few inches, stop with my needle down, and then I'm gonna rotate that fabric and make sure it remains flat underneath my foot as well as a couple of inches ahead. So now I'm going over the seam. So I'm gonna go over that and then keep on going all the way around. I veered off a little bit from the 1/4 inch, but again, this is a very, very forgiving project. So the fact that I'm a little bit more than a 1/4 inch is gonna be fine. I'm gonna go ahead and make sure that's flat. And next time I will definitely have a camera that you can see down right here, because I think it's important to be able to see the presser foot from that side, because this unfortunately blocks more of what I'm doing. Okay, Google, shut off the timer. That means my lasagna is almost ready. And by mine, I mean my husband made me delicious lasagna. I'm saying dinner is almost ready. We're having a little bit later dinner than we normally do. Okay, so once again, I'm gonna put that over the seam. Look at that, we're almost all the way around. Once we come back to where we already sewed, like where we started, I like to just go a little bit past it and then do our back stitch. Okay, so now let's go and flip this right side out. So we've sewn this shut at the top. Now we're gonna take our opening here, and you're just gonna carefully pull this out. We're gonna turn everything right side out. And once again, I'm probably gonna make this way more difficult than it is. Just kind of do it a little bit slow so you don't tear anything. But we're just flipping it right side out. Okay, looks a little funky, right? But now that we've done that, we'll press this in a little bit, but we're gonna close this up. So what I like to do is take my 2 fingers, kind of put them in there like that and give it a little tug, and a 1/4 inch naturally folds in. And you can just kind of pinch like that, and then pinch it like that. And you can either pin or clip, whichever you prefer. And we're gonna bring this to the sewing machine and sew really close to the edge. And we're gonna close that up. You can change your thread out to the same color as your fabric, but for this, because it's on the bottom of the bag, I'm not too concerned about it. I'm just gonna go ahead and sew it really close to the edge and close that up. I actually like going out a little bit further. And we're gonna back stitch when we start. I'm probably even closer than, it's probably like 1/8 of an inch away from the edge of the folded fabric. That smells good, honey. He also has garlic bread, which is awesome. Oh, you guys have to yell at me if I forget to switch my camera. There we go. So went ahead and sewed it really close to the edge, and now we're gonna go ahead and shove the lining fabric into the outer fabric after we press this. So we're just gonna take our little iron and give this a little press. Okay. And then we're gonna open that up and just shove the lining in there. See, it's all coming together. And this, you can go ahead and kind of use your fingers to roll it so it's nice and even. If you wanted to, you could pull up some of the lining fabric and have like a little border. That would work as well. So this goes back to what I was saying about the free arm, where we're gonna mark this 1.5 inches down, and then also from there another inch. So 1.5 inches and then 2.5 inches. We're gonna create a channel right here where we're going to put the ribbon in order to make it a drawstring bag. But if you have your free arm, like I was talking about before, where you could just slide it on, you could put your markings on the outside. But because I have my flatbed, I'm actually going to flip it like this and draw the lines on the inside, because that's what I need to follow. And I'll show you what that looks like in a second. But before we draw the lines, let's make sure everything's nice and straight here. We're gonna give that a press as well. I'm going to melt that cord. Okay. So we're gonna do 1.5 inches. This is kind of a weird angle. I hope you can see this okay. I'll just kind of put it like that. I think you can see it. So from the top, I'm gonna do 1.5 inches. So I've got 1.5 inches. So I'm going to put that guide right at the fold of the top. And then I'm going to take my pen and mark. Then I'm also, like I said, I'm going to do 1 inch further. So that equals 2.5 inches from the top. Okay, just like that. There we go. We're going to do that on the other side as well. 1.5 inches. And add another inch. Okay. I know we're doing a lot of flipping here, but now that I've made the marking on the inside, I'm going to flip it back around, because when I bring it to the sewing machine, I'm going to slide it over like I did before and have the foot right here, and then I'm just going to follow the line because I have that flatbed. I hope that's not too confusing. With my machine setup being as a flatbed, it can be a little bit different. So let's scooch this over. I usually like to start in the middle, not directly on the seam. So I'm just going to kind of slide that in. And this time my needle is right in center needle position, and I'm just going to sew right in the middle. We're going to do a little back stitching and then sew a couple inches, stop. Readjust your fabric so it's flat a couple inches in front, and keep sewing. When I go over the seam, I'm going to back stitch just because I want it to be a little bit secure there, because we're actually going to pick open a few stitches and make a channel on the side to put your ribbon in. And I obviously got my markings a little bit off because it kind of went to the side a little bit. But again, super forgiving. If it's off just a smidge, it's actually going to be all bunched up anyway, so you're not even going to be able to tell. So I'm coming over the seam again, so I'm going to back stitch and get that extra secure. But I think this is going to make such a cute little gift bag. Okay, we're going to back stitch. We are already almost done. Okay, so I cut my thread. I'm just going to lift up my foot, scooch my fabric over a little bit, drop my foot again, and then back stitch to begin. And so, stop, readjust your fabric, make sure everything's nice and flat, keep on sewing. And I went over that seam, so I'm actually going to back stitch it. I went a little bit far, so I'm going to back stitch a little bit more. There we go. Make it nice and flat in front of me. Having the flatbed is fabulous if you're quilting, but having your free arm easily accessible is awesome as well. But if it's larger like this in the round, it's not difficult doing it like this. You just have to mix it up a little bit on how you would normally sew. All right, we're back to where we started sewing. We're going to go a little bit further and just back stitch. Hello, hello. Okay. We have now made our channel here. Okay, we've made our channel. What we're going to do is go to the seams on the side, and we're going to take our seam ripper and pick open a few of these stitches so we are able to feed our ribbon through. Okay, I get my seam ripper. And if you're young, this is where you want your mom or dad to help you. The first one is the hardest. You got to kind of work it in there, but you don't want it to come through the other end. You're just picking a few stitches between the two seams that you just made. So we're not going to open the whole thing. We're just doing let's do maybe two more. Just don't cut your fabric. One more stitch. See? Now you can tell there's a hole here, and we're going to be able to feed that through. Okay, we're going to do that on the other side also. This is a perfect little spring gift bag. Got to figure out who I need to give a little present to. Okay. Got just a couple. Everybody will say, put the end in that has the little red ball. I always cut the fabric when I do that. I know that's how they're designed, but I end up doing it the opposite way. Okay, we've opened it up again. Got my thumb in there. See, this is why we reinforced over the seam, because it kind of tugs there a little bit, as you can tell. Okay. Now that we've opened that up, all we have to do is feed our ribbon through. So let me get rid of this. Okay, so the seam is on the left side, seam is on the right side, and these are 26 inches long. we're gonna take our little bodkin. You can also use a long safety pin, but a bodkin's super handy because all you have to do is pinch it on the end. Boop, 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 pinch, and slide this little doohickey right there, and it'll hold on to the ribbon. And then you can go like this from the left side. We're gonna start feeding it through. Try not to hit my cord over here, sorry. This is a lot easier if you're not trying to work around equipment, so I apologize if my angles look weird. So we're just gonna push it through and then pull the fabric. Push, push, and then pull the fabric. And you're gonna come out to the end, pull that through like this. And you wanna leave about 5 inches or so on the end, just like that. So now you've got it pulled through, but you wanna take this, keep it flat, but then put it in the other side here, and we're gonna work our way around. And we're gonna come out the same side. Now, because you had folded the fabric there at 1/4 of an inch, you might have to kind of work your way around it, but just kind of see your bodkin come out. Work it there. Make sure you don't pull the other end through, which is what I almost did. So now you've pulled through one side. You can release your bodkin. It's kind of a funny name, isn't it? Even that out. Okay, so for that one, we started it on the left and fed it all the way around and came back out the same side. This time we're gonna start on the right and do the exact same thing. So we're gonna feed it through so we come back out on the right-hand side. Oh, thank you very much. The colors are on the bag are nice. They're very springy and happy, right? Okay, so this time we're gonna go ahead and feed it from the right-hand side. And now that you already have ribbon over on this side, I like to work it up on the top. Just bring that bodkin or your safety pin up on the top here. I'll show you in just a second because I'm caught on that little lip. Ooh, there we go. Can pull these down a little bit and then pull this up towards the top. Again, don't pull it all the way through. You want to leave about 5 inches. And then we're gonna bring it back. Start feeding it through back to where we started. I need some background music. I don't think YouTube likes background music. I think you have to be like particular about what music you use. I've got to investigate that. Okay, now we can release our little bodkin. We've got our ribbon through on both sides. I like to make sure it lays flat, give both of them a pull so you know that it's in there, so it's not sticking out the sides. It's all the way around. And now I'm going to tie a knot close to the bag on both sides. This doesn't have to be like perfect or anything. You just kind of get it a little close like that. Gonna do the same thing on this side. Come on, little knot. There we go. Okay. And then we can take our scissors. And you can do either like a couple little snips in there to give it a cute angle, or you can do it just like that, whichever you prefer. If you have fray check, you can plop some of that on there too to prevent fraying. Otherwise, depending on your ribbon, it might not be necessary, but this one, I don't think I have any fray check. Oh, my doggy's making noise. Okay. There we go. Easy peasy, right? Now you've got your drawstring bag. Isn't that cute? I hope you guys enjoyed that tutorial and you're able to make your own little drawstring bag, but I think it is the perfect touch to any gift. So if you have any questions, you're welcome to put those in my posts. I also have a free Facebook group that it is a private group. So if you want to join, it'll ask you a couple sewing related questions, but we are at its infancy. We have like 25 people in there. So I would absolutely love to have you join. That's a space where you can share some of your projects, maybe pick up some tips and tricks about sewing and quilting. But I will be continuing to do episodes of Sew with the Flow where we'll do little projects like this to help you embrace the learning curve and learn how to sew. And next time I will have another camera that has a closer shot so you can see my presser foot a little bit better. But I appreciate you joining me this evening, spending time with me and learning how to sew this little bag. Until next time, happy sewing.